I actually could probably do a book or CD or album by myself. But it's not just people with disparities who have these problems. A lot of people come in, and when they're diagnosed, they will say, I've had my mammogram every year, I run in the park every day, I eat right, why do I have cancer? Why do I have breast cancer? A lot of people don't know the two most important risk factors for breast cancer are being a woman and getting older, two things we cannot change.
My youngest sister, she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and she also had great support. She is 18 years out and is doing wonderful. My oldest brother was diagnosed with colon cancer. He worked at the atomic plant in Waverly, Ohio, and probably some of that figured into it with chemicals and stuff. He survived his first bout with it without any treatment, and then 5-7 years ago, he had a colonoscopy. He had colon cancer again. He suffered terribly with treatments, but he survived it, and he's doing well.
Shortly after I turned 50 years old, I went in for my yearly physical, and the doctor at the time said, well, now you've turned 50, you need to get a PSA test done. I'm like, not a problem. Got it done. A few days later, I got a phone call back from the doctor saying, your PSA was a little high, not too much, but I'd like to take a look and examine this a little further. Went in, had a further examination, and about a week later he called back and he says, you have cancer. I was very shocked because cancer is not in my family. I said I want it out of my body. I don't want any possibility of it ever coming back.
I work with the West Virginia Breast and Cervical Cancer Screening Program. The program pays for Pap tests and mammograms for women who are uninsured or underinsured. And I work in a 6-county region: Cabell, Wayne, Lincoln, Logan, Mason, and Mingo.
We've been working on colon cancer issues in the Ashland area for 2 years now, and we want to get the word out that colon cancer is preventable, and we're hoping that our work will be able to do that.
And being a provider for women's health care, I wanted to help other people navigate, even though they may not be my patients, and even though I may not be a person that lives in this county. I'm a West Virginian. I'm from Appalachian background. I want to help those in need, whether it's emotional or physical.
So it's just important to be aware of your body and seek help.
Yes, I think that having a strong support system, whether that's family, whether that's friends, whether that's church support, wherever it is that you can get where you can talk to somebody about what you're feeling, and maybe sometimes looking at options such as counseling. In my particular situation, there were times that I couldn't really say what I wanted to say. I was trying to be strong for myself as well as my family members, and going through the emotions that they're going through, the issues that they're going through. They have a place that they can go and release that.
The support is there. I'm still learning everything that the American Cancer Society does. I've been involved for quite a few years. About 3 years ago, I stepped up and joined the committees, and I've been learning a lot since then that I had no clue was out there. And there are a lot of people who don't know what is out there. Then my grandmother, seeing her, she had her support group and the phone calls and stuff. And that's the reason I do what I can.
Now I know, because I've seen it, that some people walk in morbidly. But that's about that support group you're talking about. People need support groups. Being a recovery coach, I understand. Being clean and sober 7 years and sponsoring, I understand that people need support groups. A support group would have been wonderful. It happened to me very fast, and support groups are very important.
When we were going through the cancer journey, we had no backup. Back in the 80s, there really was not a backup or support system. I think the hardest day is sitting and listening to my son, I'm sorry, in the other room when he was 5 years old talking to himself. I knew that he just needed his alone time. And I remember him talking to his stuffed animals, saying, I don't want to leave my mom and daddy. The support systems are very important.
To put people and pull the resources and pull the people together. And when you have networking and Susie needs something and you know that Brenda has the answer for it, then you connect them together. And the people in that organization, whether it's a church, whether it's an organization such as the Lions Club or the Women's Club, they have heard that information, they have the information, and then someone comes to them and says, oh, we have the person, we'll let you talk to them.
We're in the middle of the big town of Huntington with Marshall University and all the other medical centers. But we need to get the people here. We need to let them know what we have. And we do have people who come to us from Mingo Pike and down around Painesville and up around Beckley and Boone County, West Virginia, because the word is getting out. But we care about our cancer patients, and that's the word that I want to get out. Not the financial, not what we have, but that we do care. And until other people start caring, we are not going to see strides in this business. We have to share stories, and who better to tell the stories than the cancer survivors?
My father had died, and I had gone to Florida. I had had a mammogram in July, and this was early October. And I kept having pain. When I came back home, I called my gynecologist's office and went in, and he examined me, and he said, it feels like you have a doorknob in there. Well, it wasn't a lump, it was just a hard place. The following year, I went back in July for a mammogram, and they picked up on a shadow, that's all. They did 2 or 3 ultrasounds, still couldn't determine what it was. The doctor who did the ultrasound said, I'd like to send you to a surgeon. He says, I don't think it's anything, but I don't want you falling through the cracks. The first thing she did, she says, I don't like the feel of this. So she did a needle biopsy, and it came back positive. So I underwent 8 chemotherapy treatments. Everything worked out fine. And I have been cancer-free since then.
When cancer hit our family, it was the whole family had cancer. You don't believe it's real struggle at first. I have 2 grandsons that I've raised. The youngest one was 13, diagnosed with 4-stage testicular cancer. Had major surgeries for 6 years, but we had a lot of support. So I think all of these programs are very good. There was a lot of things that we didn't know. 3 years he was without insurance. Even though they thought they were sending it, we weren't getting it. Luckily, we had insurance. It still was a financial burden. Yeah, support's very important. We received cards, letters, telephone calls, football players, Chad Bennington. He came to visit him and brought him football. He's bonded with a lot of friends from going to cancer camp. Best medicine for him. He's still freaking out there. He's just as happy as can be through all this. You didn't hear hardly any complaints from him. He's our miracle boy.
Well, I don't think you can wait you can't be too young to get started with your PSAs, and you need to keep your appointments with your doctors. I was one that went to the doctor periodically, and when I turned age 50, my doctor suggested I start doing an annual physical and questions how many in your family has been touched with cancer. Told him about my mother who had died with lung and brain cancer, and my sister who had leukemia. So I did a PSA test and never had no signs of prostate cancer. 2 weeks after I was here, the doctor from Ohio had called me and told me that I should come back to Ohio and do another PSA test in November. Well, I went back in November and it had jumped clear to 7. I was told I should be looking for a urologist, and I found one in Huntington. The biopsy came back positive, and I chose the surgery. Did real well for almost 5 years, and the PSA started rising again. So we went into the more testing and found a tumor in my bladder. So we removed the tumor. The cancer had metastasized. It had moved to my lungs. I finished the 30 treatments of radiation. But we went back to the radiation oncologist, and he looked me right in the eye and he said, "Joe, if you were my dad, I would do chemo." So that was what we were looking for. Yes, I had side effects, but still yet I have a great support group of my church people and my wife, but I was very fortunate. I didn't have the problem with sickness, or I just had, neuropathy. It set in after about 3 or 4 treatments, and he decided that he didn't want to do no permanent damage to me, so he stopped the chemo, and he suggested I do physical therapy, and it's already started to show improvement. I have the promise in the scriptures that I can do all things that strengthen you. And I believe in that, and my faith has held me up. My support group has supported me in all different ways, and I'm really appreciative.
Back in 1969 with my grandmother, who was diagnosed with breast cancer. And back then, being in Appalachia, you did not talk about things that were wrong with you. I remember when she passed away, and that was the day everything changed for my mom. Her whole personality changed, and I didn't understand really why. Flash forward, I was 23, and my son was diagnosed with cancer. He was only given 2 days to live, and so my whole world stopped that day. He is here today, doing very well, through a lot of miracles and a really good researcher. But I will tell you, back then, the hardest thing I think that I can think of and remember, when we were going through the cancer journey, we had no backup. Back in the 80s, there really was not a backup or support system. I had a great family and a great church to help me through it. But through this journey, I lost a best friend 4 years ago who died at MD Anderson. I think it's time that we kind of open up and message out there to everyone that we need to really push the screenings, especially in Appalachia. We need to bring more people to the table to start talking about cancer, especially in West Virginia. The year my son was diagnosed, we made $20,000, $24,000 between both of us. We had insurance, we were lucky, but our payment alone was $13,000 that year. So basically, we had nothing. There were days that my husband and I did not eat. So we would have food for my son. My parents did not know this, or his parents, because we were too proud to ask for help. We just wouldn't do it. If we couldn't do it ourselves, we weren't going to do it. We need to add a bigger support system in the communities to maybe push more the detection and prevention. We need to start talking about our lifestyle